Okay, hey, welcome everybody. It is 7 o'clock on Wednesday. That means it's time for Sci-Fi Distilled, and we are in our Halloween month mode. As you can see, we have our great pumpkin background. Hello, Mary Beth. How are you doing?
Hello.
Good
All
evening.
right. How are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. So tonight we are doing the Meg 2018's version of Jaws.
Yes.
It's still, it's funny because I was thinking as I'm watching, I'm like, really before Jaws. I mean, Jaws was really the first, not only shark really movie, but really monster movie where it's a kind of a live, natural, not giant bugs or
Yeah, something
terrorizing
realistic. Something
people.
that could realistically get you for
Yeah,
real.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Jaws was fairly realistic in the sense that great whites are that big, and not necessarily that they hold a grudge, but anyway. But before we get into that, I'm sure we have news.
We have news. We have news and information. First off, thank you, Dr. Alexander. Got my Team
right.
Artemis
We
T-shirt.
have our
Much,
Team
much
Artemis.
obliged.
Thanks to Doc Alexander. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
We appreciate it. And also, I got in the mail my brand new designed by Jeff Rubel for Sci-Fi Distilled, and I love it, Jeff. And I actually already wore it out, and people, like a family member, was like, "Oh, hey!" And then we actually spent some time like naming all the chefs, so it is
That was
really
the plan.
cool.
Thank people.
Yes, it worked.
Yeah, they're really nice. So you can go to our. I'll put it up. I don't want to over push the sales stuff because I don't. That's not what we're here about. But
No, we're not. And the sale ended. So,
but if you want one, they're really neat to have, and it does help us out a little bit. So
yeah,
that's all I'm going to say about that.
Yes. So in the news tonight, about 5-6 days ago, Looper published a story about rumored sequels, and I'm going to rattle them all off. There's quite a number. I might skip a few. There's quite a number of these are sequels that could be anywhere in the production. They could still be a twinkle in a writer's eye, or some of them already have trailers. So A Christmas Story Christmas already has a trailer. Stars a guy playing Ralphie. Can't think of his name off the top of my head, but that's coming. Indiana Jones 5. Okay. The Exorcist. Did we need one? Maybe we did. I don't know. Face Off 2. Triplets, which is the sequel to Twins. Did we need that? I don't know. Beetlejuice 2. Yeah, they've been talking about that for a long time. Big Trouble in Little China 2. We don't need it. Don't do it. Stop. Gladiator 2. Kingpin 2. Labyrinth 2. Not needed. None of them.
Yeah,
Lethal Weapon 5. God, please stop.
Oh my God! Stop with the Lethal Weapons.
Stop with the Lethal Weapons.
The first two were good, and then
and then it went downhill from there. Legally Blonde 3. The Last Starfighters. Now that would be a sequel to The Last Starfighter, and if they do it right, it could be good.
Could be good as long as it's not a reboot.
Yeah.
As long as it is a sequel, kind of like I love what they did with Ghostbusters, Afterlife. Because I thought that was a really good way to kind of wrap up that story.
And Maverick, the Top Gun one.
I haven't seen that yet. I still have to see that one. I haven't seen that one.
Me too. And I don't want to pay the $20 yet, so we'll see. Last Starfighters, I just talked about that. National Treasure, Gremlins, no. RoboCop, maybe. RoboCop Returns, maybe, depending how they do it. Return of the Rocketeer. People enjoy the Rocketeer, sure. And there's a couple others, but speaking of sequels, here's one that was not on that list. Henry Cavill back as Superman, maybe. Warner Brothers have expressed an intense desire to do Superman Man of Steel 2 and the search for writers and directors.
And they're just as likely to, after they make it, to just shelve it and not ever air it.
That's what they did to the Batwoman movie. Batgirl, yeah. Sorry, Batgirl movie. And I didn't love. I'll say this. I don't know that the DCU's having a bit of a struggle, and we're going to talk about Black Adam here in a second. And I didn't like the movie. I mean, the movies are okay, but I'm going to give props to Henry Cavill. I think Henry Cavill gives an earnest and honest and thoughtful performance as Superman. Like, I think he's an excellent Superman, and with the right script, I think it would be phenomenal.
I think I don't know. I guess I'm really old school. I still think Christopher Reeves did the best cinematic Superman.
Yes, he was the really old school Superman. Yeah, for a modern.
To me, that's always going to be my Superman. I'm not a. I'll admit that I am not a big Superman fan. Sometimes I like him. I'm just not a big. I don't follow him.
For the modern Superman, I'll take Henry Cavill.
Yeah, I mean,
I like Henry. I like his work.
I don't know what it is. Whatever Marvel has, and not that every single Marvel movie has been fantastic, because there's been some stinkers, but for the most part, they're statistically their movies are pretty good.
Yeah.
DC has the opposite. It's like the alternate universe.
Well, yeah. Well, let's talk about
bizarro world.
Yeah, it does. So let's talk about Black Adam. So Black Adam is out tomorrow, or like tomorrow midnight showing, whatever's out this weekend. And the early reviews all use the same word. They're all saying brutal, but in the best way. This thing is getting really great reviews. Black Adam as a character who I know nothing about myself, but he does not let anything or anyone get in his way. And this is apparently unlike any comic book movie that's ever come before, and it is an epic action spectacle. Dwayne Johnson does not hold back, and he is electrifying. They call his performance electrifying. And some critics are already saying, just on the previews, already saying that this will tip the scales for the DCEU, which has been struggling with its last film. I mean, Marvel, let's face it, Marvel has been kicking DC's ass for a while.
Oh, like all over the place.
Like up and down, left and right. Yeah. So if this may do it for them, and I hope it does. I don't know if you guys know anything about this character. Clue me in, because I know nothing about Black Adam, but I'll check out the movie.
I don't know. I mean, it just looked like another movie to me to stick Dwayne Johnson in.
I don't know. I don't know the plot. I don't know the story.
Well, I mean, neither. But I mean, it's just I don't know. He's just so well known. I don't know if he was the best choice because he's been in so many movies. I mean, this is the guy that played the Tooth Fairy.
Yeah. When you say that, all I can think of is Arnold. Maybe it's a tumor. It's not a tumor.
No, but I mean, he was in the tutu and everything. You know what I'm saying? He's like little wings and whatever. So I mean, I don't know. It's not that I have anything against Dwayne Johnson. I think he's a fine actor for the movies that he does. I just would think that maybe DC would want somebody a little more, I don't know, less known.
Because they're great. His performance so far.
Well, we'll see. You know, we'll see what it is. Yeah. I don't know. I've heard of that superhero. I'm not familiar with it. Again, I'm not familiar with a lot of DC. When you get outside of Batman.
Moving on. Back in the Marvel universe, Harrison Ford has been confirmed to play General Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross in the next, at least in the next MCU film, Captain America 4, maybe Thunderbolts. We aren't sure yet. He's replacing William Hurt, who passed last March. In the Star Trek world, Prodigy's back October 27. Now, kids and other fans can try their hand at being the crew of the Protostar as Outright Games and a Spanish developer, Tercera Studios, have released Star Trek Prodigy Supernova on consoles and PC. They say that don't expect high production values. It has the comic book style intro is, but the actual in-game graphics are quite nice and capture the feeling of the show. This game is $49.99 on Xbox, PlayStation, Switch, and Steam. You know, I've been underwhelmed with all the Star Trek games. Like I tried Bridge Crew; it was so hard.
Bridge Crew you need a crew to play it. Yeah, I think it is a good game, but it was never built for single player. Even though you can do it, it is very difficult to play.
It's a team game, and if you don't have a team,
it's very difficult to play.
Moving on, Chris Chibnall and Jodie Whittaker's final Doctor Who episode. Chris Chibnall is the showrunner, and Jodie's the Doctor. It's just around the corner. The series showrunner is going to be exiting the show with and Jodie, she's also exiting too, with the power of the Doctor. And apparently it's going to be very different from what we've seen before. Chibnall was describing the Doctor's regeneration scene. He says where it takes place is different, and the way it's done is very visually different. I can't say anything else without it being a spoiler. But it will not. He says it is not going to take place in the same place as previous regenerations. Although they say, okay, so it's not in the TARDIS. But I remember older Doctors regenerating like not.
Yeah, that's always like. Yeah,
so I don't know why
they don't always they don't always regenerate in the TARDIS.
No, they don't.
They regenerate wherever they die.
Yeah, they regenerate wherever they die. Yeah, so whatever. Doctor Who returns to BBC One, BBC One, BBC Two, BBC Three on Sunday, 23rd October 7th. On Sunday, the 23rd of October at 7:30 p.m., which is supposedly simulcast on BBC America. So that would be like what 2:30, 3:30 in the afternoon for us, I think, here on the East Coast. I'm not sure. Somebody check
5 hours, roughly 5 hours behind.
5 hours, so 7:30.
Or ahead of, behind them.
Yeah. Robbie Coltrane, best known as Hagrid, has passed. He was only 72. It's so sad. If any of you caught
And
that,
it's so funny that everybody keeps referencing him as Hargreaves, but he had
oh
so
god, he
many
did a
great
million
roles.
things. Yes.
So many great roles from what was the this one where he was dressing Nuns on the Run,
Yes.
which was a classic. He was in one of the Ocean, I think it was Ocean's 12. But one of the best movies that he was in, which is very obscure and most people, it's from the early 90s, is called Let It Ride with Richard Dreyfuss. Look it up, find it, rent it. You will not be disappointed. It is a very funny movie, and he plays the at the horse track. He's the guy that does the betting, that takes your money.
He
And
also,
he's
you
hysterical.
see him, yeah, and you see him super, super briefly in Flash Gordon, which we did with Roy's Tie-Dye Sci-Fi. He's when they're getting on the plane or getting off the plane or whatever, he's on the crew at the very, is one of his very, very, very first appearances.
But he had a very tiny role for that.
Yeah,
I mean,
tiny role.
But I'm just saying, yes, he is well known for Hargreaves, but he had a very, very, very full career.
Yeah, absolutely. Check out his IMDb and check out his work. And finally tonight, in science news, Caltech, once considered science fiction, technology capable of collecting solar power in space and beaming it back to Earth to provide a global supply of clean and affordable energy is moving closer to reality. Through the Space-Based Solar Power Project, SSPP, a team of Caltech researchers is working to deploy a constellation of modular spacecraft that collect sunlight. So basically solar panels in space. Transform this into energy and then wirelessly transmit it back to Earth. How is that going? How do you wirelessly transmit electricity? That's interesting. It is an unprecedented project. It is very ambitious. Go to Caltech. We are rooting for you. And that's all the news I have tonight. Rizzo, do we have a drink for our shark?
We do have a drink. And it's called a Shark Bite.
Yeah.
Very simple, very summery drink. But I guess the idea is you just drip the grenadine at the end to make it look like there's blood in the water. A very festive drink. But it does fit this movie. So there it is. Yeah, it's pretty fruity and sweet, but I think it's probably tasty. So,
Dr. Alexander, well, he's singing the shark. He's singing the Jaws. He's singing the Jaws theme. Jeff says he got his, so yay!
Yep. So, so let's get into the Meg. 2018. It's got Jason Statham as your star. I mean, come on. Right there. Right there. It's going to be at least good to watch,
He's stubble and growling, and he has made that a character, and it works for him, and he does it in every movie. And
he pretty much plays the same character whatever movie he does, but we love him for that. So
we love him for that.
Yeah. So, and he's actually, for this, he was actually a professional swimmer, like at athlete level. And
yes, he was. If you go on YouTube, there's video of him diving. He was a diver.
In the 1990, he was like Commonwealth Games.
He did the flippy.
Yeah, diving. Yep. So well, obviously he's in very good shape and he knows the martial arts stuff. And by the way, if you want to see one of his early movies that he's really great in, Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels.
Oh, that's a good one. That is a good one.
One of my favorite movies, and it's British, so watch that one if you haven't seen it.
Dr. Alexander is explaining how my news article about the transmitting the electricity. Jerry Stewart, hi! Didn't this movie take place 20 years? Yes, it did. This thing sat in production. It was like in the 90s. They
optioned the book in the 90s. That's how long
it sat
around. Yep.
And they finally got to it. And you know what? The weird thing is when you kind of watch this movie, because we were talking about this before the show started, it's kind of a 90s movie, I feel like. It's got that vibe somehow to it. Like they really brought it into the 2000s with the CGI and stuff, but the plot and the writing is a little... They could have amped
the thing with this film is the first thing you have to do when you watch this film, if you haven't already seen it, don't go into it expecting super scary. And don't go into it with just keep an open mind and just roll with it. It's an action movie. It's just to keep you kind of, as things go along. There's tons of suspension of disbelief that's out there. I'm watching it. I'm like, well, that doesn't really make sense. And that doesn't really make sense.
Do not go in with a scientific eye. Just
there's a lot of fails on that. It's not supposed to be accurate. Again, it's just supposed to be fun. and kind of a roller coaster ride, if you will, of thrills and chills,
Yes.
and some good one. But I think it's done well enough. I don't know why I like this movie so much. I mean, I don't love it like this is like my favorite, but I enjoy watching it. I just think they hit the mark, I think, for what they were trying to do. I think the fact they don't take it too seriously. There's some humor in there.
Yes.
The shark is pretty impressive, or sharks. There's actually two, we find out. Spoilers if you haven't seen it. But it's like you had Jaws in 1975. And how do you build from that if you're going to stay with this genre? And the sharks have to get bigger and weirder. So, but at least in some respects, they tried a little to make this they did research megalodons and what there's not alive for them to study, but of what they think, but they had to adjust the model, the CGI model to make it work, because they were saying like a real megalodon they think was more white or almost translucent.
They weren't sure with the megalodon because obviously all they've ever found,
and they couldn't get that to look right, so they just colored it after a great white, that kind of thing. And but one of the things I really noted, and apparently this was in the book, but they pulled it out of the movie, was because these creatures were living in complete darkness at the very, very, very deepest part of the ocean, and then now it's up on the surface in where they were, the South China Sea or something like wherever they were.
Yes.
In the bright sunlight, that this thing it would be blind. It would evolutionary. It would be just blind. It wouldn't see anything.
Yeah, in the book, it hunted.
In the book, they said it only attacked at night because of that, because it couldn't handle, its eyes couldn't handle
science.
The light.
It's the little sciencey things that try to make it better, and they did try.
But again, you don't even just let that go. Just go with it.
Yeah, they did try to make some decisions. They didn't know what it would look like, so and they tried to do some things that would make it more realistic. But I don't know if it really worked or not. Dr. Alexander is saying the dates for Artemis 1 launch are the 14th, the 16th, and the 19th. We'll hopefully not the 19th, because that's Mr. Shatner. So I hope you can join us at the William Shatner event. John and Sue, that's an amazing pumpkin. Yes, CVS. Everyone go to CVS and get a pumpkin. CVS coming through with a cheap Chinese plastic.
Bill's asking if this is going as a slasher movie. I wouldn't even say that.
No,
I would just go into it. It's kind of a fun. Go into it like you're getting on a roller coaster.
Yeah,
that's what I would say. You get on a roller coaster. It's gonna ups and downs and spin you around, and and some of it's pretty predictable. What's gonna happen?
That's true. Some of it's very predictable.
The effects are good. The action is good. I think the story is the story. But again, don't expect too much for it. It's not Pride and Prejudice.
So, but you know what? Go in looking.
It's not Jaws.
I'm going to give mad props to the CGI team.
Yeah,
they did a couple clever things that I'm going to talk about here. They did a phenomenal job with this thing. It looks really good. There's some stuff in this movie that's photorealistic, and one of them is their CGI. Jason's, what was the character's name? Jonas. Their CGI Jonas was spot on. They did a fantastic job. And he did, of course, Jason did a bunch of his own stunts, but in a few cases he would do the stunt and then they would kind of render it a little bit. They did an amazing job. The other thing they did that I haven't seen that this was particularly groundbreaking, but I haven't seen this done anywhere else. They rendered a shot of the thing toward the end where it's like the big climactic ending where they're killing it. It's swimming, and they show it to the studio. They show it to the Bruces, and the studio's like, "Yeah, it's great. Can you make it go faster? This all needs to happen faster." And the CGI guys were like, "Oh crap!" So what they did was they made the shark go a little faster this way, and then they moved the environment. So they made it go like that. They just moved the environment fast, going the other way, and it worked. And so they actually turned this thing around in like a weekend, showed it back to the studio, and the studio was like, "Yeah, that's fantastic, perfect. We'll go with that." I've never heard of any, I mean, I don't know a lot about CGI, but I've never heard of anybody else doing this before, where they just, instead of moving the thing faster, they just pulled the environment away from it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I have either, but I mean, that's just,
super
you gotta think on your
clever.
feet and come up with a
and when it had to turn, instead of making it turn, they just pulled the environment, You know what I mean? They just manipulated the
Yeah,
environment.
I
So,
mean, a lot of those shots are so fast. They're
yeah.
all like you know what I'm saying. It's
But
really
it's
you
not.
almost have to
It's like a
pause.
Michael Bay movie. Like you guys
Yeah,
ever notice, like in Michael, like in
it
Transformers,
is
it's
kind of
just
like
a
a Michael
blur.
Bay. That's a good example of it. It's kind of like a Transformers type film,
You don't
but
know
with
what's
sharks
going on.
attacking
It's
people.
chaos. At
It
least in
is.
this thing, you knew what was going on. None
Kind of
of
knew
the
it was
action
coming.
was.
There's not a lot of surprises because it's like they set
Yeah.
up a lot of stuff. There's the one where they when we get again, these are going to be spoilers. So when they reveal that there's a second bigger Meg out
Yeah.
there, there's the one guy who's he's gets knocked off the boat, but he's kind of joking around, he's splashing around because they think they've killed, which they did kill the first one.
They killed
And then, of
Meg.
course, the bigger one comes and eats him. And you know
but
it was
not
coming.
Meg.
You know it was coming because there he is. First of all, you know there's still 40 minutes left in the movie. And he's floating out there joking around behind the boat. And they're like, they should have.
Never relax, guys.
Well,
After
yeah,
think
you knew it was
about
coming. Like I said, so I'm not giving a lot away because you knew that they kind of. But the one thing they did is they did pay homage to Jaws a lot in this film.
Yes,
There
they
is
did.
a ton of
Yes,
Jaws
let's
references.
talk about. I want to finish with the CGI, and then let's talk about the millions, not millions, the many, many homages.
There's many.
The
I'm
other
sure I
thing-
missed some too.
The other thing the CGI team had to make like a decision on was so science does not actually know a lot about actual megalodons. They have the teeth, but the rest of the animal is cartilage, so it's just
Yeah.
gone forever. So that kind of gave the CGI team free reign to do what they wanted. And they did want to make this thing look scary, but as they correctly pointed out, sharks, real sharks, great white sharks, they don't have facial expressions. Their happy face and their attack face is the same face.
Right.
So they did
unless
that.
you're on Finding Nemo, then Bruce.
Exactly. I'm kind of finding
Bruce
Nemo.
said, "Hello, my name is Bruce.
So they kind of
Bruce
rolled
are
with that,
friends, not food."
and they just hoped and prayed that this kind of reality, like this kind of realism, would help make it scary. And did it work? Yeah, I think it.
I
think
just
it
yeah,
did.
this is not the movie that you're gonna get nightmares about, or it's
No.
it's
You
just
know-
yeah, I don't know how to put it. It's not scary.
It's not scary.
But then again, by today's standards,
the
Jaws
thing.
isn't scary.
Here's the thing: Jaws actually kept us out of the water for real.
Oh yeah, I mean,
Jaws
I
kept
remember
some
I
of
was a
us
kid. Now, I
out of
didn't
our swimming
Yeah,
pool.
I did not see Jaws in the theater. I was too young. I was only 7, I think. I wasn't allowed to see it. It was too young. Not that I really wanted to, because I didn't want to go see scary movies
Yeah.
at age 7.
Well, not at 7.
My sisters did go see it, but I remember that summer, and like you're right, no people were at lakes and wouldn't go in the water. Yeah,
Yeah, people wouldn't go in the lake.
And I remember the AM because everybody had AM radios. Remember the little tiny
Yeah.
little AM radios you just carry around?
Really?
AM was everything
mono.
back then. And I remember the DJs there was like, be the fifth caller, and they were giving shark repellent kits.
Yeah.
Out as kind of a prize, stuff like that. It was a crazy summer when Jaws came out.
It was.
That's why I made the joke when I put the drink up. It's safe because that was the thing. It's it's safe. It's not safe to go in the water.
Back in the water. The Meg is not going to scare you out of the water.
No, the Meg's not going to scare you out of the
It's not
water.
going to scare you out of the water. It just doesn't. That's why I said
I really loved the
feel
scene.
like
What I
they
thought
could-
was great was when the little girl, now the underwater lab has these. Now, why you would
Oh
build
yeah,
it
it has the
all out of
quarters. Yeah.
these Lexan or plexiglass tubes or whatever it was made out of polycarbonate. And she's kind of playing in alone. Something's going to happen. Again, they set these things up, and it bites the shark. The shark comes up and it bites the tube that she's
Yeah, it bites
in.
the glass. Yeah.
And it's like almost big enough to swallow the whole thing because it's massive, which I thought was a great effect. And that was kind of scary. And of course, when they finally, because she's fine, it doesn't actually, it just cracks the glass.
Yeah,
but it
she's
doesn't
scared.
break it.
And then I waited for that. Like I waited for the inevitable. It breaks, the water rushes. You know what I mean? I waited for that to come. And you know what? To the writers'
didn't
credit,
happen.
they didn't do that. That would have been too easy.
And the little girl in this film she's atypical for a child in these films. Whereas every time you have a child in these films, they do the stupid thing. They end up getting in the way. They go and do something. They always do which you're like, why would you do that? And they end up having to rescue the kid. And this kid is the complete opposite, where this kid is smart.
Kid's okay.
And she's only supposed to be 7 or 8 years old.
Yeah.
But she's smart. I think she's smarter than most of the adults. And yeah, I think she was a good character because She's the daughter of one of the lead
the main
scientists
the main
on
female
the
lead.
thing.
Yeah.
And I was like, you know what? There's a kid that's in a movie, and I don't find her annoying.
Yeah, you're totally okay with her. Yeah, and you don't mind, like, she's hanging out with Jason Statham, and it's all right, and she's hanging out with DJ, the black guy, and you're like, oh, that's cool, and they're hanging out. It's like whatever.
Well, you thought at one point you thought she was going to stow away on the sub with him because remember she wanted to go.
Yeah, she wanted to go.
And she was on the sub. She was like in the driver's seat, and he was like, and she knows more about the sub. He was trying to find like the auxiliary power, and she's like reaches over and flips it. This kind of stuff like that. But yeah, you were waiting for her to be hidden. Oh, she's in the sub with him or something like that.
Yeah, you wait for her to pop out. Thank God.
That they didn't do that because that would have been just lame.
So let's talk about. Do I have any of the CGI I want to talk about? Not really. Let's talk about. Do you want to talk about the cast? Or you want to talk about all the many, many, many nods to Jaws?
Jaws is on the top of my list. So
let's do it.
A lot of them took place when they get to the end scene when the shark is headed for this very, very populated beach.
Yes.
You see a lot of the shots kind of mimicked that overhead shot from Jaws where you saw all the people in the water swimming. We kind of had a very similar shot to that. There's a nod. Well, there's a wedding going on a big yacht.
Yeah, with the dog.
And the little dog jumps in the water. Well, the little dog's name is Pippin.
Pippin.
Remember that was one of them. Pippin does not die in this movie, whereas Pippin was a snack in Jaws. So that was one reference I caught right off the bat. The other ones are like a little more subtle. When it gets caught up in some anchor chains and it starts pulling these rafts that people were kind of swimming off like these swim platforms. There was 3 of them that eventually get yanked together. That was kind of a direct. Remember the 3 barrels? He can't go down with 3 barrels, not with 3 barrels on him.
Yeah,
of course he goes down with 3 barrels.
Yeah,
that was another one. On the beach, there's a mother and son. Of course, they're Asian because this is supposed to be. I don't know if it was Thailand or.
Yeah, I believe
it was somewhere in that. Yeah, and anyway, it's a very busy beach. The mother's in a bathing suit, very similar to the mother that was on the beach. Remember the boy, little Kittner boy that got at same time as Pippin did. So she's on the beach. The kid wants to go in the water. She eventually, says okay. He goes out on the float thing. It's a very similar scene. Again, this was all done on purpose. Trying to think what else did you have for Jaws?
Well, they did a few things. In Jaws, they caught a shark first, other shark first,
right.
But it wasn't the shark.
Yes, right. They had in this movie they had the one they did get.
Richard Dreyfuss goes down in the shark cage.
In the cage.
They used shark cages in this movie. Same kind of.
It was the same basic idea that they were going to kill the shark. They were going to inject it with some kind of poison.
One of the posters for this movie shows. Do you guys remember this poster? Let me get a picture
with the shark coming straight up and the woman swimming.
Yes, it shows a human diver and then a pretty big shark coming after the human diver. And then this monster mouth that could clearly envelop
all of it.
The little human diver and the fairly big shark, like all teeth. That was kind of like in the Jaws poster was, the shark coming up to get, it was a female, I believe it. No, it was a swimmer or something.
There was a woman, the woman that was swimming in the beginning. That would in the beginning of Jaws when the woman goes out, she goes skinny dipping in the dark and she gets eaten. That's what it was supposedly referencing.
The Pippin, you already mentioned the Pippin. Hooper, we didn't really have a Hooper or a Quint. Exactly. I mean, I guess Jason Statham.
I mean, they did the same thing where the shark kind of came. And the second shark came up on the boat and basically.
The shark kind of came up.
So there's a lot of similarities, but don't think of it. Oh, they're just copying Jaws. No, they did this on purpose.
No,
Jaws. So that's why I think it worked. It wasn't like they're just copying stuff. Yeah, I mean there was a ton of those were very similar stuff that they.
Those were kind of similar characters, but they don't do the same thing.
No,
they
didn't have the crusty fisherman that was going to go and. But they were going to also remember Quint wanted to go into shore to get him into the shallows and drown him. They kind of had the same plan. Although they weren't going to drown him, they wanted in shallow water where they could have a little more advantage where it couldn't dive deep and get away from them. And their plan was to blow it up.
And just, I know we talk about Jaws, but just a few other references in this movie. One of the whales was Gracie, which I know in Star Trek. one of their whales was George and Gracie.
And Finding Nemo.
Rainn Wilson, who we're not doing, I'll do all roads. My road this week is Rainn Wilson, so I'll just do it now. Rainn Wilson. Rainn Wilson goes, "You're like Bones, huh?" Which is a Star Trek reference.
Star Trek reference. And then there's a Finding Nemo one when Jason Statham is swimming. He's swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep swimming.
Just keep swimming.
Story.
And I think there might have been a few other. And then this movie, of course, gets mentioned in a million other things all the time. So yeah, I mean, it was made for the paltry sum of, and I can tell you exactly how much was it. There it is. It was made for the paltry sum of 130 to 178 million. They're not really sure, but this thing raked in $530 million worldwide. Very popular movie. Everyone likes it.
And the Meg 2 is
coming out. And the Meg 2 is coming out next year. So yeah, what's it called? The Trench. Meg 2, The Trench.
The Meg 2, The Trench.
So, and they kind of deliberately chased after Asian audiences with this movie. There is a very heavy, like a lot of it takes place in the South Pacific.
Yeah, it takes place in technically international waters. They make a point of saying that. But it's near
very
China.
International cast, an amazing international cast, which is awesome. There's an Australian gal and then a bunch of Asian actors, which is so cool. Love to see it. So yeah, they deliberately chased the Asian audience, and that's cool. It worked. They made mad money. So good for you, the Meg.
Well, like I said, if you see Jason Statham as your your lead, you know what kind of movie it is. I mean, I just think that's,
So let's look at, since I just mentioned them, let's look at our cast. Our entire cast had to undergo swim training with the stunt team, and everyone spent long hours in the water, like 8-hour days in the water, which was pretty grueling for everyone. So who do we have? We already talked about Jason Statham. We have Li Bingbing as Su-Yin. Our main. Now, did they not really have good chemistry though? Like there wasn't anything.
No, they didn't overdo the whole love story thing. Yeah, I mean, you knew that they were probably going to end up together because, of course, the other Ruby Rose. No, I'm sorry, not Ruby.
Not Rose. Ruby Rose. Jessica McNamee.
Jessica McNamee. Excuse me. Plays Lori, his ex-wife. So, there's a bit of tension there, but there clearly wasn't going to have any, that relationship was over. They were already divorced, and he was concerned about her because she got injured early on. But
yeah, he goes to rescue. He has to go rescue her.
But yeah, and then of course you have Rainn Wilson, Rainn's character, he plays kind of the rich.
He's funding this. He's kind Elon Musk that's funding
Elon Musk sort of kind of he's the one that financed all this. Of course, he's kind of an interesting character, Morris, because you're kind of like, okay, he's just the money guy, and but then he kind of does the right thing, he's like, okay, we got to save people and do that.
You're rooting for him,
right? But then he's like, at one point they get back to the lab thing, and they're okay. Some of them are lived, some of them have died, but he's like, okay, I've called the Australian government, I've called China. It's out of our hands. They're gonna have to come kill this thing.
Yeah,
and he didn't do that because he was worried about being sued by anybody who was affected by this thing, because they kind of released it from its sort of captivity down below at the deep ocean. There's like a layer of ice cold water or some kind of chemical.
You're not looking at the science in this movie.
The sharks can't come up above, so that's why they've been living for.
They yada the hell.
Yeah. Anyway, so they accidentally made a hole temporarily, so these sharks got through. So he goes off with his own little, mercenary force to try to kill the shark privately, and of course it goes badly. You know what I was really expecting? Both times we saw a helicopter, I was so expecting the shark to come flying out of the water and grab, because the helicopter. I never understand, why do these helicopters? They're always so low to the water.
They did it in one of the Jurassic Park movies, didn't they? Have the
Jaws 2 had that, but the shark, but the helicopter was in the water. It had pontoons. It had landed to help some people. And then the shark grabbed the helicopter pontoon and dragged the whole thing underwater. But I was so expecting this, because the helicopter was so low, when it was just going to come up and just nail it. But they never did that. Maybe that was too obvious that was going to happen. But anyway, the rest of the thing goes badly for Rain, and he ends up getting at.
Sorry, Rain. Yeah, and you're right. It's kind of too bad because I did
like he's always pretty good. I liked him as an actor. As much as I have disdain for Discovery, I liked him as Harry Mudd.
Oh, I loved him as Harry.
I thought he was good as Harry Mudd.
He was a great Mudd.
So I know a lot of people there's different opinions.
Honestly, I know with a little minor Discovery tangent. I know we are not later season Discovery fans, but Discovery season 2, that was a good season.
Yeah, out of all of them, that was the best. I agree. Out of all of them.
That was an okay season, and then when Pike came, when was that? Season 3? Or was that season 2? Or was Lorca still alive in season 2?
No, was it?
No, because it was Lorca with Harry Mudd. It wasn't Pike.
Yeah, but he was dead by the end of the first season. So that was all first season.
Okay. All right, moving on. Ruby Rose, Australian actress Ruby Rose. She is awesome. She's been in a bunch of things. You guys will recognize her. And unfortunately, she was the gal helming this recently canceled Batwoman or Batgirl movie that just got shelved by DC. Do you remember there was that big hoopla a little while ago? They had a whole movie. It was ready to go. It was ready.
It is Batwoman. I thought it was Batgirl, but you're right. It's Batwoman.
Whichever.
Oh, no, that was the TV show.
Whatever. That female. Oh, she's not the movie. She's the TV show?
TV show.
Double check the IMDb here.
2020. Yeah, she's the Batwoman from the TV series.
Oh, okay. Okay. But they shelved that.
Well, it only lasted 2 seasons, and then that was it. Yeah,
that was the end of that. So she's around. You know Ruby Rose. You just don't know that you know Ruby Rose. Winston Chow is Minwei Zhang. He's been in a few things, but most of his IMDb is in Asia. Cliff Kurz. Paige Kennedy is DJ. We kind of know him. We've seen him around. As you've mentioned, Jessica McNamee as Laurie Taylor. Olafur Darry Olafsson as the Wall. He was the big guy with the red hair.
Right. And he's the guy that, he kind of sort of he's the one that the reveal of the second shark is when he gets.
Yes, he unfortunately is the reveal of the second shark. Sorry about you, my friend. Most of his work is overseas in, let me just look and see where he's originally from. He's done a lot of work in Europe. He's born in Connecticut, but he has lived in Iceland most of his life. And you tend to see him in things like Viking shows and we're in Norway and hey, look at us in Finland and that kind of stuff. He has that look to him. So he's been getting a lot of work over there. And then who else do we have? Anybody else?
Matsuoka.
He's the only other one you guys would recognize.
Yeah.
He's Hero from Heroes.
Yeah.
Save the cheerleader.
Such a bad show. Sorry, I know it was really popular. Like
we should talk about. We should do Heroes one night because
I got through only like a few episodes. I'm like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen.
It really, and it didn't get better. Like I had so much promise, and Zachary Quinto was in it. Remember?
Yeah.
And he played the bad guy, and it had so much promise. And I was like, oh, this is gonna be so tight. And nope.
No, it was just bad from the.
But Massey played the hero, and his friend Andy, what was his name? Played in. Do you remember? You don't. Hang on. Hang on. It'll come to me. Give me a second.
Well, I need like the Jeopardy music. While Mary Beth thinks.
Yeah, move on. When it comes to me, I'll mention it. But anyway, so that's
the cast pretty much. Yeah. But I'm trying to think of what else. There's something else I was going to say. Interesting things. So one of the things that they run into when they're down at the bottom of the sea is a giant squid. Now we don't see a lot. Well, we do see a flash of it. Most of it's tentacles. And then we kind of see one quick shot of the whole squid wrapped around. And it's very Jules Verne, 20,000 Leagues, as this squid is. But the point I wanted to make was the sound crew, to make the sounds of the squid on the submarine.
Oh.
They went and took a car out to the Warner Brothers lot to a place where it was like nobody was around, put microphones inside the car, closed the car up, and then took plungers and plunge the
Really?
windows of the car either wet or with soapy water or dry to get the different suction cup sounds. And I
That
love
is
that story
awesome.
because one of the things I always kind of wish, like I wish I had done in production or had taken this track was Foley artists, because I've always loved the way they figure out to make a sound, that we put into films. And I don't know,
Yeah.
probably the art of Foley artists is probably gone now that they can just digitally generate
I don't
almost
think so. I
any
actually
sound
think
that
they
they
still
want.
need Foley artists. Like the
Yeah, I
one
mean the
they
old days where
always
they had
show
guys
is
like
them
literally
breaking
running through
celery,
a
but
tray of gravel or
yeah,
to make the
they do
footstep
all
sound
kinds of creative stuff.
stuff. But like, we always heard the old stories, the Star Wars was a guy, the
Yeah, on the high
lasers were a
tension
guy
wire.
hitting a wrench on a guy wire for a tower, that
Yeah.
sound. So all those little things, I've always found that fascinating, and I think that was interesting. And this one particular story, I thought that was pretty good how they came up with the suction cup sounds. How would you make a giant suction cupping sound on a piece of
With a
plexiglass
giant
or
suction cup.
polycarbonate? So it was kind of
Clearly.
interesting. So that was kind of, so there weren't, so the other thing is there's not, there's other large creatures than just the Meg down on this trench area, which I think we're going to revisit in the second movie since it's called The Trench.
Yeah.
So
Dennis and Bill reminded me that Pike was season 2. Wow, I have a short memory. I totally thought Lorca was 2 seasons. Like, I legit, if you had
Now he
asked
died at
me
the end
how
of the
many
first one.
seasons was Jason Isaac on Disco, I would have been
Yeah.
2.
Well, because remember, now that was what year was that? Did that air? 2017? 2017 was season 1. Because I remember it in Vegas in 2018, because remember, that was the year we went. Jason Isaacs was there, and people kept asking him, are you going to come back? He's like, I died. I fell through this thing. I got fried. I'm dead.
I went to get, yeah, it's exactly what he did to me. I walk up to get his autograph. I'm like, hey, man, I really enjoyed the character. I'd love to see that character again. I fell through the mycelium network with a thing through my heart. I'm like, okay, you signed an NDA. I get it. Okay.
But, the other thing which people kept talking about, we don't know what happened to the
Prime. Well, Lorca Prime. We don't know.
Lorca
Yeah.
Prime. So they could bring him back.
Chris LaRoche has the Batwoman info.
Yeah, she left the
Bill.
show. Yeah.
Bill, all Disco seasons seemed long. Yes,
they don't end.
Yeah. That first season felt like 2 seasons to me because I really thought Jason Isaacs was there a while.
The thing is, like you said, it peaked in. I know we're off topic. It peaked in 2, and then 3 just went spiraling down.
Yeah, it peaked in 2.
Headed down ever since.
It peaked.
Sorry I'm sorry if you're a Disco fan. We're not.
I'm still watching it though. I'm not.
I couldn't even finish the last season. I just couldn't. I just didn't care. I just don't care. So that was moving on. So
that's it. I'm just looking through my notes. I gave you all the notes. Science that's not possible. That whole cloud layer thing, not possible.
It wasn't even water. It was some other chemical, right?
It was something that would kill things.
Well, it was ice cold too. It was like, I guess it was supposedly part of reason why nothing caused it.
The one little thing that they actually,
and they did imply that there were some kind of seismic vents. Well, the seismic vent being ruptured and caused the warm water to fly up.
The seismic vent, isn't that the exact same plot to Pacific Rim?
Well, no, that was the
Kaiju
Rim. It was actually like a portal to another universe.
I thought it was just something that they came up from under the crust.
No, it was like a hole in the ocean floor, but it was like a wormhole sort of thing.
It's just a wormhole that happened to locate itself on the ocean.
Oh no, the aliens did it on purpose.
Did we already do that movie? And if not, can we do that?
We've done it. Don't you remember? Lead with the sword.
Zero memory.
Lead with the sword.
What I wanted to say was that the one thing this movie did is they tried to have a nice little moment there. They tried to do a good job to bring awareness to shark poachers and shark fin poachers.
There was a scene,
scene
the shark fin thing
with the poor dead sharks floating in the water with no fins. The problem is dead sharks, guys, sink. They don't float because they're not buoyant. They have to physically move all the time. You guys have heard this. Sharks have to swim all the time in order to stay afloat. Otherwise, they go right to the bottom of the sea. So yeah, but thank you, the Meg, for trying to bring awareness to shark poaching. The
sharks were kind of the heroes at the very end. You remember, because when it was them. It was because first when that was one of the things that when the first shark the first Meg they killed, they had remember they had chummed the water to attract it, and there was
Yes.
tons of sharks, regular sharks. And then all of a sudden, all the sharks disappeared when the Meg showed up because they're afraid of it because it would just swallow them whole. And then, so when the second one is dying, all of a sudden, all the sharks saw like opportunity and they all attack it.
Yeah,
which is
it was like the T-Rex coming back.
Yeah, exactly. It was
not
like
even the same.
Coming
the other weird little thing that they did that I was like, oh, is they have Statham has a line in there about it's not the people you lose, it's the people you save or something, it's the people you love. And it reminded me so much of Rose. Remember when Finn's gonna go, like Finn's racing in to like take out Adam Driver or whatever, and then Rose suddenly comes in from the side in Star Trek 4, 5, 6, 7, 92 and a half, whatever, Star Wars 92 and a half. And Rose comes in and smashes into Finn.
Yeah.
And she gives some dumb line about it's about saving what you love. It just reminded me of that. I was like, that's dumb.
Yeah, I didn't put that
in both movies. Neither movie needed that
line.
Well,
I mean, we didn't take it. So the movie starts with Jason Statham is either in the Navy or he's contracted by the Navy as a rescue diver to do deep sea rescue.
Okay.
Deep sea rescue. So it starts with a naval sub that has been, we don't know what's happened to it, but it's at the bottom of the ocean and it's, they need to rescue. So they got a DSRV. They've attached it. They're going through, they're rescuing the crew. And while this is happening, something slams into the side of this giant nuclear submarine that's sitting on it's always precarious. Every time there's a ship or something sunk that they're rescuing people from, it's always precariously on a ledge. Nothing ever sits on flat ground. But anyway, as Jason Statham, he sees the side of the sub just like cave in. Of course, these subs are designed for massive pressure and stuff like that. So to have something just slam in the inner hull. So he realizes that this is bad because it starts leaking, and he gets out as many people as he can, but several crewmen and one of his buddies he has to close the hatch and get out of there. And of course they blame him. They think he's had like nitrogen narcosis or deep sea or something like that he went crazy down there
underwater
because nobody else witnessed this, whatever. So that's where he just basically gets out of that, and he's living in I guess it was Thailand. Which one of the best parts of this movie is the Asian version of Mickey. Hey, Mickey, you're so fine.
But that's right.
They do it in like Cantonese or something. That's awesome.
There's a Thai.
It's like a great. It works. Totally works in like Cantonese.
Tony Basil's 1980.
Tony Basil's right.
Mickey. Oh, Mickey, you're so fine. You're so fine. You blow my mind.
Yeah, but it's in Cantonese. I believe
it's in Thai. I think Thai.
Yeah, or whatever. It's Chinese or I don't know.
It's in something.
It's in something that we don't understand, but it works.
Oh, the other movie nod is that Masioka gets Hero from Heroes. He gets, we're not gonna make it. You are. And he shuts the door. He gets that moment.
Yeah, he gets to save them that's on the second sub rescue.
Sorry, man. In this movie, he's Toshi. Sorry, Toshi.
Yeah. So he dies, of course. And of course they're almost gonna blame Jason Statham for that one too. But people backed him up. So anyway, he gets exonerated, obviously. That in that incident years past, he did the right thing and saved as many people as he could. He's because he stuck with the idea that if he had tried to save the whole crew on the Navy sub, that they all would have died.
Yeah,
nobody would have survived. So
yes.
Anyway, they had to put that little tension in there because, of course, he's the only guy that can save this other.
Like, there's nothing going on in this movie, plot like writing wise.
No, it's not. Like again, this is not Shakespeare.
I feel like they could have ratcheted. No, it's not Shakespeare. They could have ratcheted up the tension in a few places. Like, I can't believe I'm saying this. But it wasn't scary enough.
It wasn't scary. It was not. No, I don't find it frightening. Like I said, I equate this as a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's an action movie.
Yeah.
The shark is just the vehicle for the action.
Yeah, the shark.
Because even the deaths aren't gruesome. Most of the people died. They just get
cleanly.
Swallowed.
They just chopped.
There's no Quint
gore.
Getting eaten in half and blood pouring out of their mouth and being just shredded. The most gruesome thing I think we saw was the guy's hand. When they go to the ship with the sharks, and they're like, oh, that's not all they got, was, they pull up an arm.
Yeah.
Although when Rain gets eaten, he thinks he killed the shark, and what he actually killed was a whale. And I forgot, how does he ends up in the water? His helicopter, or he's on a boat. That's what it was.
Oh yeah, they blew up.
He's on a boat, and they take off, and he, of course, because
No,
they
he
took off
gets
so
blown
fast,
up.
he
They
falls
just
off the
take off
back.
fast, and he falls off.
Yeah,
the
he
back.
falls off the back. So, and like they leave him there. So he swims over, I guess, to the whale, and he sees the shark coming, behind him. This is at night.
Yeah.
And it chomps a chunk out of the whale right next to him. And he's like, oh, like I dodged it. He's trying to, and then of course, 2 seconds later, the shark comes back and he's gone. That's it.
Yeah.
Takes him up to it. So
Jeff saying, I'd like to see a Pride and Prejudice with sharks. I don't believe there's a Pride and Prejudice with sharks, but there is a Pride and Prejudice with vampires or zombies.
Vampires or zombies. Vampires maybe. I don't know which one. Yeah, Well, there's also Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
I was going to say Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter.
I've actually seen that movie.
Maybe we need to do that movie. I've seen it.
Maybe we should have done that movie. It's not as bad as you might think.
It's not as good as you might think, but
it's not as good, but it's not as bad as you might think.
Not as bad. It does have a plot, but it's like Cowboys and Aliens. It's just when they just decide to take two disparate things.
Yes, I didn't like. I didn't hate Cowboys.
Yeah, I liked Cowboys and Aliens.
I didn't think it was that good a movie. I didn't. Yeah,
I didn't hate it any worse than
I thought it was a waste of what's his name, James Bond there. The current James Bond, or the just one that just finished, James.
Whoever.
The main character in Cowboys and Aliens. Why am I drawing a blank on this? Somebody help me out.
Oh, yeah, I can see. He just got knighted.
Come on, guy.
Royal of the Order. Yeah, he is.
Why am I drawing a blank?
Daniel Craig.
Daniel Craig.
Oh,
thank
and
you.
You know who else? Harrison Ford.
Is in that movie?
Yes, Harrison Ford is in that movie.
You know what? If you like Daniel Craig, he shows you his range of acting. Is watch a movie called Logan Lucky. It's got Adam Driver in it, and it's a heist movie about a robbery, and Daniel Craig plays somebody that he plays like this weird Southern convict, shaved head. He's really weird. It's a really good movie. Watch it, Logan Lucky.
We will check it out. Daniel
check that one out.
literally just received an honor, the same honors that James Bond has. Like the Order of the British
Empire. I just think his talents were wasted in Cowboys and versus Aliens.
Probably. Hey guys, out in the chat. Oh, hey Roy. Roy, I just watched your Omen show today. I'm sorry I have not been catching it live, but great show. I love The Omen. I'm looking forward to
the dog down
next week. Next year when you guys do The Exorcist, because The Exorcist is coming up on its 50th anniversary, and it has a rumored sequel coming out. So yeah, and yeah, next Friday we're gonna do the Munsters, and I have my costume all picked out. Roy, Ross, and Rizzo. Me and the dog.
Costumes.
I do. It's Halloween. I'm dressing up.
Did we do costumes last year?
Yeah, we did. I play the Evil Queen or Thelma.
Well, you do costumes better than me.
I'm not asking you to.
What do I do?
Throw on your Enterprise jumpsuit for the 6th year in a row.
Yeah, that's one I like fallback. I might come up with something. Who knows?
Doesn't have to.
We'll see.
Fancy. Doesn't have.
The problem is you can't see anything because this is all you see.
Yeah, this is all you see. So you only have to costume.
You only have to do a shirt and a hat.
Yeah. So Ross and Roy, I'm coming in costume. None of the rest of you may or may not, but I will be there Halloween Eve in costume.
It's the Friday before Halloween. Halloween's on a Monday.
Oh, Halloween's on a Monday? Oh.
Yes.
That's useless. My little kids trick-or-treating. They'll trick over the weekend. Yeah, you're right. Halloween's on Monday.
Yeah, I don't know what else we can say about this film. Boy, like I said, I enjoyed it. If you wanted just a movie to kill a Saturday night, grab a bowl of popcorn, and
grab an adult beverage,
and just adult beverage, and don't read too much into it. Just enjoy it. Like I said, if you like other Jason Statham movies, what's the one that the series that he's really famous for there? The I don't want to say what the hell's the name of it.
I have no idea. I'm
Where
not.
he's the delivery guy, basically. He's not the delivery guy, but drives the car, and I am just drawing blanks left and right.
I am too. I'm not having a
The
good
transporter, my shouting.
Oh, the transporter driving cars.
He does. He drives the car. He delivers stuff.
You're
That's what
right.
he does, transporter.
He's in the transporter.
So if you
absolutely.
like those films, you'll like this film, I think, because it's kind of on the same, like.
Yeah,
sort of-
it's like a shoot 'em up, but no one gets shot. It's
it's just the
up.
dark. This is
It's
man
just a
against
really
him.
big honking. He is in Meg 2 The Trench. He is listed on IMDb for Meg 2 The Trench.
Yeah,
so-
a lot of them are coming back.
Oh, you know what he did that was good though? The Expendables. That was good.
Yeah, he's pretty good in whatever he does, but you're right. He plays the
He
same
did
character.
Fast and Furious 46 and a half, and I mean,
Yeah, I
he's
mean,
around.
he does. Whatever he does, he usually plays, like you say, the same kind of
The
character.
Italian Job. He was in The Italian Job.
Yeah,
That was a
Italian
good
Job.
one.
That was a good movie. That was a
Snatch,
remake,
Lock,
a very
Stock.
old movie.
Ghosts of Mars.
That's an old movie.
Well, 2001 version. Ghosts of Mars.
Well, yeah, I mean that was 21 years ago.
Wow. Oh my God, 2001 was 21 years ago. That's not good, guys. That's not good at all.
Yeah, when you start looking at things in those perspectives, like you realize that how much time has passed.
Let me tell you who it's coming up here. Phil.
Yeah, what's Phil got
Every
going on?
week on WUSB Stony Brook, that's 90.1 for those of you on Long Island, or streaming wherever you have access to the interwebs. Captain Phil will be talking to 17-year-old Izzy Meth. That's his real name, Izzy Meth. He has new music. Izzy Meth has new music. And that'll happen at 3 p.m. He has a cover of Rush's Spirit of Radio. And coming in November, Phil has a huge Evership interview. He calls it an epic interview. And he's excited for that. And he'll be back in the center seat for Friday Night Freeform. Phil, if you're taking requests for Friday Night Freeform, Wood Kids Run Boy Run is the earworm that's playing on a loop in my head. It's playing in my head right now. Roy next week will be doing 1968 classic Night of the Living Dead. We kind of touched on the 1990 reboot because that is how we met Patricia Tallman. She was in the reboot. But he'll be doing the original Night of the Living Dead next Friday on Roy's Tie-Dye
Coming
Sci-Fi.
for you, Barbara.
Yes, that one. Yes. And Rizzo, what are we doing?
Next week, we are going to kind of wrap our Halloween month with 1999 or 98?
98, 99.
98, 99, the Mummy with
The Mummy. With Brendan Fraser.
Brendan Fraser, and
Right.
and so and this is a really good movie. I think it was a really good action movie on many levels, but I think it also, we really started to see CGI in this movie, and this is the kind of when CGI really, I mean, yes, we always say that like Jurassic Park was when we really were blown away by CGI, but by the late 90s, I think we were seeing things that were just like, wow, that was really cool. We're still being wowed by CGI. This movie has a lot of good stuff in it.
Do you guys remember the mummy's face coming in the sand?
In the sand, that was one of the things, exactly what I was thinking of. That alone, that effect was amazing.
At the time, it was amazing.
But it was a good movie overall. It was fun. It had humor.
Well, I actually have a Brendan Fraser quote on the movie. He had commented. Remember, Tom Cruise also did a Mummy movie. Do you guys remember that? He says the ingredient that we had, meaning that Brendan is talking about his own movie, that the Tom Cruise movie did not have, is fun. He says the Mummy should not be a straight horror movie. It should be a thrill ride, but not terrifying and scary. And Brendan says he is open to reprising his Rick O'Connell role. I would love to see Brendan
There are 3 movies that have him in it that are the Mummy, from that franchise.
Yes, that franchise. Yeah.
And then that spun off the Dwayne Johnson films.
He played
with the second, was it the second movie or the third movie? The Scorpion King.
Scorpion King.
So the franchise is pretty deep, but really this first movie is and it should be. It's the one that launched.
I'm going to go on a limb and say it's the best of the bunch. The
absolutely.
was fun. It had some great effects, but the
argument.
scripts weren't it wasn't super strong.
But yeah, we'll talk about it next week.
We'll
We're not
talk
gonna
about all.
that.
We'll talk all about it next week. Yeah.
So that's all we have. So we got covered, right? Yeah. So we'll be on Roy's next Friday. Not this coming Friday.
Not this Friday. This Friday's doing Night of the Living Dead.
Week from Friday.
Next Friday we'll
we're
be
gonna
on to
do
talk about the Munsters.
Munsters. Yep.
Lily, Herman.
I'm gonna have to catch up on some key episodes.
I am too. I gotta brush up on my.
I've not watched.
All I remember about
the Munsters is one of those shows that I used to watch as a kid. It was on the afternoons. It was reruns. Obviously, it was off the air. I think before I was even born.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So, but the car was very cool. We all remember the
car was very cool. The car was out of the 60s traditions of like the Monkey Mobile, the Munster Mobile, the Batmobile, of course.
The same guy built
the Chariot from Lost in Space. Like there was this whole tradition in the 60s of having this cool car. But the Munsters was satire of shows like Leave It to Beaver.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I'm looking forward to taking a look at that. And everyone put your guess in now. What will I be dressed as? It's always a costume that I can wear, me and my dogs. Me and the dogs. What will we be for Halloween this year? Place your bets now.
I'm thinking Wizard of Oz.
No, but that would have been a good idea. Let me write that down.
When you got the dogs, you could have 2 Totos.
I only got the one Toto. What would the other one be? The witch. Ty, you gonna be the witch?
Munchkin.
Ty could be a Munchkin.
Flying monkey.
Oh, flying monkey. Tilly could be Toto and Ty could be a flying monkey.
Okay. Well, I guess I'll come up with something, but I'm not a big costume guy.
Again, you only need to be in costume this much.
This is true.
From the bottom, you could be wearing your pajamas.
I don't do makeup, so
no, you don't. No, doesn't happen.
I did a zombie one year. It came out pretty good, but that was like too much work.
Nice.
So
nice.
All right, it's after 8:00. I don't want to keep anybody any longer. We'll see you next week.
Go to bed, everyone.
Once again, hey Doc, thanks for the shirts. These are great.
Yes, Dr. Alexander,
appreciate
so much.
Yeah,
I am appreciate Artemis. We're looking forward to the launch.
We're really looking forward to the launch. Absolutely. So on that note, we will see you next week with the Mummy. In the meantime, everybody stay safe. Hope you're all feeling well and staying out of COVID's way.
Yeah.
All right. Live long and prosper. I got to get it in the camera. See you guys. Bye-bye.